Hello, everybody. Welcome to Orange and ReadWrite. Yeah. I'm Mike. So this is the first joint event between Orange and ReadWrite Labs. We're really excited for all y'all to be here. We're co-hosting this event together. So the way it's going to work is I'll tell you a little bit about Orange, and one of my colleagues will join me as well. Winston's going to tell you a bit about ReadWrite, and then Craig's going to take over as the MC for the evening. We've got 5 lovely, cool startup companies to tell you how to make the smart home even better, how to make buildings even better through the miracle of the Internet of Things. We're going to end by just mentioning a couple events, and then we got food and drinks for everybody behind the curtain. And we'll take 1 or 2 questions at the very end if we have time. If we don't worry. All the startups have little podiums back there, and you can find these guys and ask them any questions that you have. We have some time. So everyone looking good so far? So if nothing else, I'll just jump in. So I am the co-founder of the Orange Internet of Things studio. Welcome to Orange. If you haven't heard of us before, we're a giant telco like Verizon, AT&T, but for Europe and Africa. This Orange Silicon Valley is the office you're sitting in now. We have a couple floors here in this building, and we do innovation strategy. We try to answer the question, what's coming next? What are these trends that are going to affect Orange back in Europe? So we have a bunch of different teams. Internet of Things Studio is one team. We have colleagues working on blockchain and Bitcoin. We have colleagues working on augmented reality, virtual reality. Mark's going to tell you about his awesome work with data and smart cities. So we have a lot of different areas of interest. But since I'm interested in Internet of Things, I threw together with my friends at ReadWrite this fun IoT event. That said, I'll let Mark come tell you a little bit about his work, because some of y'all might be interested in data and buildings and smart cities. So Will is sick, so that's why Will Barkus is not here. But Mark's just as good, if not better.
Great. So first of all, I apologize. I've got a nagging injury that I'm taking care of, but otherwise I would be up and looking as enthusiastic as everybody else. So I was excited about this, not just because IoT is, a very cool, interesting set of technologies, but also because I think it helps us with some pretty fundamental and really important problems around cities. I think IoT and smart cities plays that role because cities are a double-edged sword. I mean, we're used to thinking of cities as this place where, people come and there's opportunity and they are drivers of economic growth. But on the flip side of that, you've got cities as places that are using tremendous amounts of energy. They're producing tremendous amounts of waste. They've got slums and all sorts of other challenges with how cities deliver on their promise of a better life for their citizens. And I think, I'm thinking of examples like urbanization is happening all over the world. In India, you've got 80% of the population living under $2 a day. What happens as they move to cities in pursuit of economic opportunity, and now they want air conditioning as they get wealthier and can afford that. That's a huge challenge for us as a globe to deal with those sorts of resource constraints. And I think that we do that by being smarter. And I think smart homes, smart buildings, smart cities are part of that answer. And Mike mentioned that I'm working on data sharing. So with Orange, one of the workshops that we held here in October in this space was it was called B2B data sharing for smart cities and the Internet of Things. And the fundamental problem that we were trying to solve with that workshop, to start trying to solve with that workshop, is one thing that I'm really excited about with IoT and smart cities, is that we know all these challenges that IoT can help us address, like how do we become more resource efficient or energy efficient with our buildings. We can monitor water through a pipe. We can monitor the street lights. We can monitor all these individual things, and they each produce very valuable data flows. If we can bring together those data flows, we can start creating new solutions to problems that we haven't been able to solve so far. The challenge is that any one company that's producing a very valuable and interesting data set has a ton of incentives not to share that data. And even if they want to share it, they've got a ton of barriers that are in their way preventing them from doing it. So A new initiative that we're starting here at Orange is to help us address that problem, unlock some of the potential for social value and for monetization that comes from mingling all the different data sets that you all are producing. And so if you'd like to help us figure out how your companies or organizations can be a part of that and can do something exciting with it, come talk to me. My name again is Mark Peterson, or I'm sure Mike can put you in touch as well. That's it. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Mark. And now we'll hand off to Winston, who'll tell us about ReadWrite.
Hi, thanks, Mike, and to Orange for co-hosting with us. I'm Winston. I head up programs and partnerships at ReadWrite Labs. For those of you who don't know, I'll just give you a brief intro of who we are. We started 3.5 years ago as a wearable world, and in that time, we've actually run as an accelerator sort of 6 cohorts, with about 92 startups, 220 founders who have since gone on to raise about $130 million with 100% crowdfunding success. So some of the companies that are notable in our portfolio include Zoa, a Canadian company that does a wearable air filter, which also goes into buildings. Nuheara, which is intelligent earbuds, got a lot of awards at CES just this month. Grush, which is a gaming toothbrush company. They've won a $1 million prize at Intel. OS Vehicle, which is a open source electric vehicle platform, and on and on. Electric Power is a company that provides home power storage and management. If you look at the portfolio of companies that we have, we started in wearables. That's why about 50% of them are devices and other category. Those are the startups. Second biggest category is health and fitness. And smart cities, which is the topic for this evening, we have about 10% of our portfolio. But we're actually broadly, we started in wearables, we're now broadly IoT, so we're into 5 or 6 different verticals now. And as far as funding, 90% of our portfolio have gone on, we've had 90% funding rate, and of course most of that is in the seed round, 81%. And then the next highest one is of course Series A. On average, our portfolio companies have raised about $1.64 million, and our portfolio value collectively is about $700 million. So that's our business on the lab side. If you look at the overall thing, we're recognized in the industry as the accelerator that's focused only on IoT. And because of that, we look at the whole life cycle of an IoT venture, starting from an idea to market research, prototyping, crowdfunding, manufacturing, and then when they're ready to launch, having market knowledge, who are the partners that play in IoT, building it, launching it, getting early stage funding, all the way to global expansion. So we look at the typical the end-to-end life cycle of an IoT venture, and we basically provide labs programs, media programs to support that life cycle. So for example, we provide incubation, acceleration, mentorship, networking, operational support, events and media. We actually acquired a company called ReadWrite.com, which is the leading IoT media site with about 1.5 million uniques a month. Our editor-in-chief is back there, Trevor, of our media site. Then we run events like hackathons and expos. We do corporate innovation, investment, and then soft landing programs. So basically, because we focus on the end-to-end life cycle of an IoT venture, startups work with us traditionally at seed stage and pre-A stage, but now we're starting to also start helping Series A plus stage companies expand overseas, like innovation road trips to Asia, help them land there with the right partners in terms of strategic investment, distribution, funding, manufacturing. The way we do that, the secret sauce really is the data. And what I mean by data is that we've actually built a community, a qualified community of IoT practitioners. We're actually reaching this community, 1 million of them every week. And we do this by highly targeted analysis of who are the players in IoT, engaging them through newsletters and other media assets. And we plan to grow this community to 4 million early adopters by the end of this year. What that means is that, just imagine, right, within IoT, what are the verticals that are active? Who are the players there? Who is a distribution partner for IoT? Who are the early adopters that could be your customers? Who is a startup? Who is a startup that is at seed stage, Series A stage, B stage? and of course, who are the investors in this particular space. So this is the data that we've been able to build and engage on a weekly basis with our media assets. What does that allow you to do? When we get to 4 million people in that IoT community, it allows you to get access to partners in the global network, access to startups like you guys, and of course, early adopters who are your customers. So that is the data that drives our labs and media programs. Last slide. What are our products? Our products are broken into 3 things. The global network of labs. We started here in San Francisco, but we also have operations in Hong Kong and Shenzhen. And we're expanding this year to Shanghai and LA. And the reason is because these are all major IoT hubs, right? So that's one product. The other product is, of course, media and events, as I mentioned. And then the third product that we're starting is, of course, an investors club, where we will initially syndicate between $80 to $150 million a year worth of portfolio investments every year. So if you have interested in any of these things, please come and talk to me or my colleagues. I think there's 8 of us here this evening. Thank you very much. Hand it off to Craig.
As Mike mentioned, I get to have the fun job of being the MC for the second half, which is the best half because we get to see some amazing startups. We have startups in the VR space, security space, water conservation, energy, and checking my notes here to make sure I didn't miss any, artificial intelligence as well. So as I welcome up these entrepreneurs to share their passions with you and the companies they've been working on, please give them a warm welcome. First up, we have Jimit with Flow Labs.
All right, thank you everyone. My name is Jimit Shah, and along with my co-founder Nishant, we started Flow Labs with a mission to change the way we look at water consumption. In America, on average, we use twice as much as water as the rest of the world per capita. Now this includes everything from our day-to-day use as well as the waste that we create because of the behavioral impacts that we have on the environment. Besides that, about 14% of water is wasted due to leaks. Now this is a big problem when you look at this chart over here. You cannot see it as properly, but the blue line over there shows the curve of how the water prices have gone up over the past 5 to 10 years. For consumers, this is a problem, but when you look at facility managers who are looking at larger facilities, this is a major problem. They've done everything from changing the fixtures to low-flow fixtures or low-flush toilets, but they still lack the fundamental data behind where and how the water is being used. So we have created a solution to help them change that. Current solutions are either expensive or too cumbersome to install. So we asked a simple question. Is there a way to make a solution that's affordable and easy to use? That's where Flow Labs comes in. At Flow Labs, we build end-to-end products and solutions to help operations managers optimize their water use within their buildings and facilities. This is our first product. It's a low-cost, non-invasive sensor. It uses ultrasonic technology to power. It's easy to install. It clamps on without needing any professional plumbing. Once we use these sensors to create a grid for the operations managers based on the level of granularity they desire. The sensors then connect to our cloud wirelessly, and you can see the data over a dashboard. So over here, you can see on the top, over here you can see on the top, you can filter through the dashboard to understand where exactly your water is being used. You can filter through the floors or the rooms that you like. You can see over here the cost of your water for the specific time period or location, as well as you can receive alerts. So the alerts would be on overuse or leaks that we can detect and tell you right away so you can respond to them quickly. Our business model consists of going directly to customers such as hotels, universities, or property management companies, as well as channel partners such as insurance companies, ESCOs, who would then lead us to consumers. We sell our product as a hardware as a service model. Happy to share more about it later if anyone's more curious about the business model. Overall, once we start collecting the data on where and how the water is being used, like Mark mentioned earlier, we can start bringing products and services to life that can bring that change that we're hoping for when it comes to water conservation and water consumption. We're Flow Labs, and happy to answer any questions you have.
So just a reminder, we're going to hold all questions to the end. So if you've got a good one for Jimit and Flow Labs, go ahead and just write it down, and then we'll go through at the very end. So next up, when you think of the VR space, you probably think of entertainment, you probably think of video games. Aviday here with indoor reality is probably going to change that. She's working on something for smart buildings.
This is the button for pushing forward. Okay. Can everybody? Yeah. My name is Aviday Zakor, and I am the CEO and founder of Indoor Reality. We are in the business of mapping the indoors one step at a time, and I'll explain what that means in just a second. So let me just start by talking about the more familiar outdoor mapping. As you all know, companies like Google, Apple, Here Maps we have mapped the outdoors many times over. We are relying on outdoor maps on our daily lives to figure out how to get from point A to point B, to figure out where things are, and to position people and to position objects in the outdoor space. Such an equivalent product does not exist for indoors. There's a great number of buildings in the world for which there's no floor plans. Moreover, these buildings are becoming smart. We're going to put all kinds of sensors to reduce their energy consumptions, to measure the water flow, like the previous speaker talked about, etc. But if you don't have the map of the building, and if you don't know where your sensors are, it becomes very hard to manage those. So what Indoor Reality is doing is coming up with a platform. It's a mapping and visual documentation platform for insides, for interiors. And why is that a hard problem? Well, it's a hard problem technically because there is no GPS indoors, and it makes the mapping problem particularly difficult from a technical point of view. At the same time, we spend about 90% of our times indoors, and so it's pretty important to have up-to-date floor plans, maps of not only the architecture of what's inside buildings, but also where all the sensors are, where all the security cameras, where all the fire extinguishers, where all the fire strobes, all the important assets inside the building that's of importance. So what we have is, we're a platform company. We have two pieces of hardware, a backpack that somebody wears and walks around, and a handheld device that somebody holds in his hand and walks around. And these two pieces of hardware, they're complementary. You don't have to use both of them. They share a common software pipeline. And I'd like to think of it as a four-step solution. Step one, you walk around, capture. We walk under normal conditions, not faster, not slower. Then you process the data that you captured through either one of those things. And through that, you create a large number of data products, point clouds, web-based virtual navigation inside building that allows you to measure things. I'll talk about those more. And then after you do those three steps, you can locate people or locate objects. So let me go over some of those things one step at a time. Point cloud is the most geeky thing we produce. I won't even bother explaining what that is, but for those of you who understand it, after we do the walkthrough through some automated processing, magically we generate the 3D point cloud, color point cloud of a building. And so in this case, we generated the color point cloud of a Beverly Hills ballroom, Beverly Hills Hotel ballroom. This is a more interesting one. So once we're done with the walkthrough, again, we automatically generated the virtual walkthrough of the space. It's a web-based viewer, so you click on these blue buttons here, and you jump from one location to the other, and you can look panoramically around you, up, down, right, left, or you can do it on your phone, or you can do it on a VR platform, and you'll see a demo of those in the other room. Most importantly, you can either automatically locate assets from the images or from the point clouds that you have afterwards, or you can go inside the web viewer and click on assets and annotate it. So this has the annotation and measurement capability. And so without ever being inside that space, from the comfort of your office, you can virtually navigate, see what kind of assets are in this building, how many pipes are there, what are they doing. Then we, from that same walkthrough, automatically, we plug it into a Revit model. This red floor plan is generated automatically, and then after 10 seconds of waiting and adjusting with some parameters, you can get a nice Manhattanized Revit CAD model of that walkthrough. So it's essentially a way of scan to BIM, generating CAD models out of a walkthrough. And then here, we can link the Revit model to our web viewer, so you can click on a point inside here, the web viewer gets launched, you can do measurements here and come back and refine your Revit model. So really, you can, the point is you can generate floor plans very, very quickly and automatically. And once you've done that, we have an asset detection engine that can put assets of interest inside that floor plan, and that's shown here. So in this case, we detected smoke detectors and security cameras. And this asset detection engine does 90% of the work automatically, but for the remaining 10% where it makes errors, it's not 100% perfect, you can go as an interactive human and correct things, do QA on it. So in addition, after we do the walkthrough, we can sweep the RF or the radio map of the building. We can collect the Wi-Fi signals, the Bluetooth signal, the magnetic signature of the building, and what that means is that when we're all done, we can create a little Android app or a mobile app on your phone that when you physically walk into the building, tells you where you are in the map, okay? And so some of these things didn't quite come out right, but that's okay. But this gives us 3 ingredients that are needed for asset and facility management. We do a walkthrough, we can create a map, number 1. And then we run it through our recognition engine. We create dots where we tell you where the assets are, put inside that map, the position of the assets inside the map. And number 3, later on, you can physically walk into the building without ever talking to a facility manager or the owner. You know where you are in the map of the building, and you can go visit the assets or your sensors or whatever things that you have positioned in step number 2. So we are an early stage startup. We have many customers in high tech, hospitals, airports, train stations, universities, all kinds of buildings. There's an emergency room in a hospital in San Francisco. It's the PayPal campus. This is a bioengineering lab at Clemson University. And this is the end of my talk. We are in the other room. We'll be happy to show you a demo of what we got. Thank you.
Thank you, Avide. All right, next up, we have an entrepreneur. Got it. An entrepreneur that is helping to reduce energy consumption and the cost associated with that. Please welcome up Mark with Verdigris.
I'm actually Thomas. I apologize. Mark unfortunately couldn't be here today. So.
And if I have notes, it's still they can still throw me one.
No worries. But I'm also one of the co-founders of Verdigris. I spend my time on the growth team, thinking a lot about our customers and what they're looking for. But maybe before I get into some of what we do, just backing up a little bit and sharing what Verdigris's place is in the Internet of Things and smart buildings, and I'll try to go a little bit faster. So we have this thesis that it's not just software, but AI is eating the world. And basically, this is probably the axiom that people are most familiar with. This is changing how we travel, how we eat, how we farm, how we live. And we feel like the built environment is really probably the largest opportunity for this trend. And what's enabling that for us is sort of the Internet of Things and the data network. And just so there's no mistaking what that potential is, what we kind of see is, on the left, an example of this, the taxi industry, siloed, unconnected data and services. On the right, smart transport and logistics enabled by phones, right? Having created this network of vehicles. And there's a couple things you can learn from this, right? The companies on the right are the ones that are capturing data because that data has inherent potential. The companies on the right are technology leaders in automation and machine learning because that allows those companies to scale and leverage the value of that data. And the value of that data is an order of magnitude greater than the unconnected paradigm. So what was, formerly a $16 billion industry in taxis and limos is now the $200 billion smart transport industry. So that same phenomenon is happening in the smart building space. And I think that's where all of these entrepreneurs are, why we're so excited about what we're doing. And this is where Verdigris comes in, because customers have that same expectation now for the places that we live and work in as the way that we travel. And what that means for people and for our customers is that they want their critical operations to be protected. They want all their assets monitored all the time. They want to find issues sooner. They want to be able to predict when those problems will happen. And basically everything just works. So the way that Verdigris tries to enable this paradigm, this connected paradigm, is through energy sensing. So it's actually very similar to Flow Labs if you think about it. But it's a connected architecture, except that it's doing a sensing at a much higher frequency than your typical sensors. And what we're doing with all that extra data is we're running algorithms on it to enrich that data. So we're forecasting we're not only showing what the energy usage has been on all your assets, we're showing what the energy usage will be. And we're showing it on a device level basis for all the equipment in your building. And we're doing this in a number of different applications. So the level of insight that we're providing to people is actually quite incredible. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead, but there's a lot of pretty cool applications for this technology in terms of our ability to then automate how a building can reduce its energy footprint, how we can detect the health of the various assets inside the building, and then obviously give that energy transparency to individual pieces of equipment. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. All right, so our next pitch, I was talking to the founder earlier. He said he once kept an entire audience captivated for 20 straight minutes. This time we're only giving him 3. Please welcome Sean from Chewy.
That's true, but I wouldn't do that to you guys. Hi, everyone. I'm Sean, the CEO and co-founder of Chewy. And Chewy is an intelligent access control system that uses facial recognition and machine learning as a way to grant access and predict behavior. So the current solutions that we see now are the HIDs of the world. They're key cards, they're fobs. You can give them to your friends, you lose them, you forget them. They're bulky, they're not fun to hang out with. They're just not good. There's no analytics. They don't provide anything for you. Our solution is Chewy. As you approach the door, we're running face detection, facial recognition, identifying you, unlocking the door, and then reporting that back to the owner of that device. So they can track the frequency of those visits, as well as enable and disable authentication for different people. We've been featured in a variety of different media outlets, about 50 publications worldwide, and we're recently named by CIO as one of the new startups that's helping change the shape of the IoT world. Some of the traction we've had, we were a semi-finalist in Cisco's Grand IoT Challenge. We were once a smart home-facing company that did about $120,000 worth of sales in over 30 countries. What we realized from questioning our customers was why they were using this technology. And the feedback we were getting was that they wanted access control. And so when we really took that into consideration, it dawned on us that the technology we were providing wasn't the best for the smart home. It was better served for a commercial application in access control. With that, we are one of the top 3 alpha startups at the Web Summit, and we are a part of the partnership program with Cisco in the UK. Our focus market is co-working spaces. They inherently need access control, and it's a place for us to beta and test not only the security, but the data analytics. They've got a high turnover of members and a high turnover of teams, so we get that information. And then we can expand to different markets that have access control on the top of their minds, fitness facilities, 24-hour gyms, offices, residential buildings, and then possibly back into the home. Our business model is we sell the device itself for $5.99 and then charge a monthly fee based on the user enrollment. And we've tested this out with 30 pilot companies, and we've got no pushback yet, so we're excited about the monthly subscription. We're raising $2.5 million to take us into that next stage, of which we will be manufacturing 2,000 units here in the US over 12 months. We've previously raised $600,000, which has gotten us 1 patent granted on augmenting facial recognition, as well as 3 patents pending, and 100 devices manufactured and assembled out in South America, which have been, some of them have been delivered so far. We've got an incredible team behind us. Myself and Nazar, the 2 co-founders, have known each other since 2006 and worked together since 2009. And we've got a great team of advisors that are helping us. Alex Boguski, formerly from Crispin Porter Boguski, a marketing mastermind, is helping us with our go-to-market strategy. Rob Shuham recently sold one of his companies to GE Quirky, so he's helping us with the connected space. And then Neil Yeager is a biometric system specialist helping us with the facial recognition side. So I'll leave you with one thing. The Internet of Things is here, and there needs to be an entry point. There needs to be access to it, and your face is that key. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
It
Right,
wasn't
so
20 minutes.
it wasn't 20 minutes, or it was the fastest 20 minutes of my life. I know I'm standing between all of you and some good food and drinks, but we have one more founder. She was waving to make sure that I wasn't forgetting her. Please come up, Sherry. Sherry's a bright founder of Bright Things. I had to practice that line. That was pretty good.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sherry Hu. I'm the co-founder and the CTO of Bright Things. So I'm really the one between you and the food. So every building bleeds energy in 3 ways: HVAC, lighting, and the plug load. Plug loads are everything you plugged in. Those are examples. So for commercial buildings, a lot of things get left on when people do not use them at nights and the weekends. This waste is estimated to be $12 billion per year, and it emits 55 million CO2s into the environment. It's equivalent of 10 million cars on the roads. For a 1,000 employee company, it's about $30,000 of waste every year. But the worst thing is, it's 62 tons of CO2 unnecessarily into the environment. So I want you to think a minute. What's a simple solution for that? Maybe ask people to turn things off when they do not use them. But think about there are billions of devices are out there. How can you ask people's attention and time out of their already crazily busy life? So we have to make this IoT. We have to make it automatic and intelligent. So we use those smart plugs, strips, and outlets in the format you are already familiar with. But we collect energy use data, push that to the cloud, and then use artificial intelligence data analytics to push the automatic and intelligent control strategies back to these IoT control devices and do it automatically for you. You do not need to do anything. It's super easy. Things can just happen for you. And here's some platforms we have. Only after you can measure, you can start to control. Why now? It's just because the current IoT technology advancement and artificial intelligence, so we make this possible. And here's a user case. Here's a water cooler and heater you see commonly in every office buildings. And it uses about $200 per year. Emits 1 ton of CO2. Just by simply put Bright Things plugs over there, you can save $100 per year and cut a half ton of CO2. Look at the market. During the past 20 years, HVAC and the lighting industry has great advancement that saved a lot of energy from them. So those two systems are using less and less energy, but the plug load is going up. The companies on the left side actually are doing great work. The plug load is emerging and rising, and those companies are eager to get into this space, or they can be our future acquirers. It's estimated that the plug load control market is $25 billion. And since we were founded last year in March, we have made great progress. We have 3 provisional patents and demonstrated energy savings I just talked to you about. And we have paying customers, San Francisco Airport and Oakland Chamber of Commerce. And just last week, we got agreement with McKesson, the Fortune Top 10 company, to start a pilot study with us. Here are some channel partners too. And compared to other competitors, we are doing way more with way less money. And this is actually not updated. Our cost is about $15 for the smart plug, $25 for the strip. It's less than a quarter of our competitors' price. And compared to them, we have automatic controls, and they normally just measure. They rely on the users to come up with the control strategies. And here's our team. Our CEO, Mike Wilson, has successfully exited 2 VC-funded companies before. And the rest of us are experts in energy, in IT, and in data intelligence. And here's our ask, $1 million of funding. We already got a quarter in my bank account, and rest of them are the ones we are looking for right now, and for a year of operation. And here's our bright things. A great company not only make a great sense, great business sense, we also contribute to the environment. And we ask your attention here, and you can talk to me afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. All right, so we have time for just 2 questions. So I can run you the mic if you have a question, and then please let me know if it's for Flow Labs, Indoor Reality, Vertigris, Chewy, or Bright Things.
My name is Alex Mendick with Blue Karma Security, and I'm wondering for the indoor reality, if you have considered the implications of revealing all this information about our internal buildings, if that could be accessible in the wrong hands, and how you're preventing it.
Yeah, I think some of our customers are actually asking us for the data that we capture not to be on our servers, which are secure, but on their own servers. So there is that concern. So we try to accommodate people who ask for that. You bring up a very good point. The outdoors is public, the indoors is not. And so when we sign up a customer, there's details spelled out as to how their data is getting used and who will get access to it, and there's level of comfort that they have as to how we make it available to them. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
Is it Verdigris? Verdigris? In the commercial real estate world, and I have over a decade of experience there, we run by what's called the 3-30-300 rule. $3 is spent on energy, $30 is spent on rent, and $300, except for in the Bay Area, is what you spend on the salaries of the people working in the space. In the Bay Area, that's higher. How are you addressing the bigger space, the 300 space in particular?
Sorry, the 300.
Yeah, how is your solution helping with reducing the impact on the 300 expense, the expense of people operating?
The people operations. Well, I'll just be clear. There's actually two ways. And I think the most obvious way was the $3 way, because I think there's a direct incentive for commercial building operators in that when you reduce operating costs, it helps their cap rate. So there's a financial incentive that goes to the value of the property. But for the operating the building, one of the biggest concerns for, one of the reasons why we focus on 24/7 critical operations is because those are the buildings where if things go wrong in the facility, it tends to dramatically impact the occupants. And the things that impact them the most, depending on what type of building it is, if it's maybe just a commercial space, it might be a lot of hot and cold calls. But once you move into, say, a hospitality space, then that's your revenue source, right? Those are people who are uncomfortable. Or in a manufacturing space, that's your revenue. Or if you're in a hospital, these kinds of facility operations are very critical. So it depends a lot on the end use of the actual building. And then what we're doing is we're making sure that the equipment inside that building is operating properly. So by doing high-frequency signature analysis on the energy usage in that building, we're able to determine not only behaviors of the people in that building, but also whether equipment is running out of spec, whether it should be replaced, whether it needs to be repaired. And in some cases, the degradation of that equipment is happening over time. And these are things that you can actually detect through the electrical consumption. Happy to give you maybe more concrete details afterward.
Great. So any other questions, you guys can take them on the other side of those doors. Just want to mention a couple, since you all love IoT, there's a couple cool IoT events coming up. HardwareCon, Internet of Things Summit, IoT World, all these are happening in the Bay. For full disclosure, I'm actually going to be speaking at HardwareCon and IoT Summit, all about how to go from disappointing to delightful, how to build with IoT. But yeah, I think that's about it. So I just want to thank our co-hosts from ReadWrite. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thank you for the startups for pitching. And yeah, we'll open these doors and get some food and beverage. Thanks, y'all.